World War II was the most expensive war in history. A total of $4 trillion was spent to incur the expenditures of the war. The popular saying, "Everything is fair in love and war," was taken quite seriously in World War. The nations went over and above to seize victory and gain domination over their rivals. Governments spent lots of money on training their armies, providing them with food and equipping them with the deadliest weapon to crush the enemies. Hey, and welcome to Dtory. In today's video, we will be talking about the weirdest military super weapons. Some of these weapons might sound funny to you, but some governments took the bizarre ideas seriously and spent thousands of dollars on them. So, without further ado, let's start the video. Necessity is the mother of invention, and Japan proved this famous saying by developing the idea of Fugo Balloons. The paper balloons were used to drop the bombs on the United States. In 1944, Japan conceived the idea of launching balloons with explosives that would float over the Pacific Ocean and create a disaster in America. The first balloon was launched on the 3rd of November 1944, and by April 1945, 1,000 Fugo balloons had reached North America. However, Japan had sent 9 times more balloons than what reached North America. But luckily, the weapon didn't prove to be as catastrophic as Japan believed it to be. Out of these thousands of Fugo balloons, only one balloon exploded and killed 1 pregnant woman and 5 children. The kids saw a large paper balloon and started playing with it, which resulted in an explosion. The idea of housing explosives in balloons was ingenious. However, many uncontrollable factors, like the atmospheric conditions, uncontrollable nature of navigating balloons, etc., made this weapon a total failure in the war. But, despite their failure, Fugo balloons are still considered the first intercontinental weapon system. The second weirdest military weapon was a bat. Yes, a bat was attached to an incendiary device. When a person is desperate and under a lot of pressure, he listens to everyone and everything. The same thing happened with the National Research Defense Committee after the terrible attack on Pearl Harbor. The US Army wanted revenge from Japan, and hence, they were ready to try their hands on a project that looked promising to crush its enemy. So, after the Pearl Harbor attack, Little Adams, a dentist, contacted the White House and shared the idea of bat bombs. According to the plan, a principal bomb with more than 1,000 compartments should be created to place the hibernating bats, attached with a timed flammable device. When the bomber drops the bomb, the bats will be released, and once the timer goes off, the fire will break out, destroying Japanese cities. The idea seemed quite bizarre, but the flame for revenge was so strong that the National Research Defense Committee proceeded with the development and application of the idea. Thousands of Mexican bats were captured, and small flammable devices were produced to be attached to them. But then came a disappointing twist. During the testing phase, plenty of technical problems arose. Some bats escaped the principal bomb with the device and destroyed the hangar and the general's car. In 1943, the Marine Corps held the reins of this project and conducted 30 demonstrations. This project cost them around $2 million and was eventually canceled. Instead of draining the resources on bat bombs, the US started working on the atomic bomb. America wasn't the only one who had rolled up its sleeves for the creation of destructive weapons. The Nazis were also busy inventing deadly guns and weapons. One of their peculiar and highly destructive weapons was Dora and Gustav's cannons, the biggest cannons in the world. These cannons had two 31.5 inches caliber and were gigantically big, and needed to be assembled before they could be used. Both cannons had numerous pieces that needed to be transported and assembled by 4,000 men. The Nazis deployed an entire anti-aircraft regiment and special troops to protect the cannons from attacks. However, only Gustav was used in World War II. It fired a total of 42 shots in the siege of Sebastopol in 1942. Its huge shells were powerfully penetrative and could easily destroy an ammunition dump guarded by 30 meters of rocks. Each shell weighed 11,000 pounds, so you can imagine the destruction it was capable of. The Nazis equipped it with rocket-propelled shells, and it could reach 145 kilometers. These cannons were indeed masterpieces in the technological world. However, it involved plenty of material and time to assemble it. Where Gustav was a complicated cannon and required thousands of men, Britain's Special Operation Executive had become quite creative with the weapons during World War II. They made use of dead rats. Britain's Special Operations Executive created disguised devices for hiding, killing, and blowing things during World War II. However, it wasn't enough for so, and they wanted to get more creative with their strategy. Thus, they introduced the idea of exploding rats. More than 100 dead rats were slashed open and stuffed with explosives. After that, they were stitched back up and placed near the boilers. The plan was to put the dead rat into the boiler to make it explode and kill hundreds of enemies. But the rats were never used as the Germans seized the container of dead rats. Consequently, Britain couldn't destroy the Germans with the explosive rats. However, it wasn't a total failure for them. The Germans became anxious about the exploding rats, so to avoid an explosion, they began hunting high for the rodents, as they believed they might be stuffed with explosives too. According to So, the dead rats worried the Germans and shifted their attention from the Britain army. So, even though the dead rats didn't explode and kill anyone, they still helped Britain during the war with the Germans. Besides Britain, Germany and Japan, Russia also developed new ideas for destructive weapons in the war. One of those ideas included suicide dogs. The Russian army decided to use dogs to drop bombs under the tanks. They initially planned to train these dogs to place the bombs in their mouth, plant it under the tanks, and return. But it was complicated to train the dogs to drop the bombs. Thus, they tweaked changes in their strategy and decided to let the dog explode with the bomb. After all, there was a massacre of humans, hence, nobody really cared about the innocent dogs. The Russian army trained the suicide dogs to find their food at the bottom of tanks. The dogs were kept hungry and were strapped with 26-pound bombs. The hungry dogs would sprint towards the tank to satiate their hunger. As the dog would go under the tank, a lever attached to the rig would hit the bottom of the tank, and it ignited the bomb. This strategy of suicide dogs became highly effective and helped Russians to kill many Germans. The Germans learned the technique of the Russians and started shooting every dog they saw. The total number of dogs used to bomb the tanks is estimated to be 40,000. And it is just a rough estimate that these dogs destroyed 300 tanks along with soldiers inside them. Now, it's time to take a sneak peek into another German weapon invention during World War II, the Goliath tracked mine. This device was quite advanced, considering the technological limitations at that time. The Germans created their remote-controlled vehicle to carry explosives and detonate bombs. The vehicle was 1 foot tall and 4 feet long and could easily carry 60 kgs of explosives. The operator could steer it with a remote, drive it under a tank, and blow the explosives. The device was connected with a remote with a 2,132 feet long cable. The device was useless if somebody cut off its wire. Even though the idea of a remote control war vehicle was unique, it didn't perform well on the battlefield for multiple reasons. Firstly, the device was slow, with a speed of just 6 miles per hour. Secondly, the device was often stuck on the ground and had trouble moving smoothly. And thirdly, this device became useless once its wire was cut off. So, the device was not successful. Yet, it opened new horizons for creating remote-controlled war weapons. Now, it's time to present the most incredible yet discomforting war weapon. We have talked about weapons used to kill people and destroy buildings. However, this weapon was used to irritate the soldiers and lower their morale. In 1943, Private E. Crocker, a chemist, was hired to create a military-grade stick bomb. The plan was to spray it on German soldiers to make their minds stop working with a horrible smell and give a blow to their morale. Thus, the chemist spent months on this project and created a concoction of horrid smells that included the stenches of vomit, foot odor, urine, feces, and rotten eggs. The spray was given a unique name, Hume. Maryland Research Laboratories designed the packaging for the spray. However, they complained about getting covered up in the foul smell. After finding a solution for the packaging issues, these sprays were ready to be sent to the war field. However, before these sprays could reach, the war had winded up. So luckily, these sprays weren't used, or else many of the German soldiers might have fainted because of the rotten stink. What do you think of these weapons? Which weapon do you think was the weirdest of all? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive updates about our latest uploads. We will see you next time. Till then, stay tuned.